And we're live on YouTube and Facebook. So usually when I go live, I just wait a couple minutes for people to come on. So I guess we'll learn if that's a good practice or not for the show, because waiting could kill the time of the actual show.
It'll take some practice.
And I can see that we have 2 people watching, but I can't see where they're watching from. So if you could leave a comment if you're watching, and then I can see if you're on Facebook or YouTube. It's probably like my mom and Shannon. So, can you see the comments on your end?
Let me see. I press chat.
Maybe.
Oh.
No. Chat is probably between me and you.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we'll have to figure that out too. I can see the comments and it tells me what platform they're from.
Okay. It doesn't look like there's any comments yet.
Okay, we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can start. So basically, Heidi and I decided, my name's Catherine Vitale, if you're not familiar with me. I'm an activist from Boston and a candidate for Boston City Council this year. But Heidi and I decided that we were going to start this show because people need to get more comfortable having uncomfortable conversations. So since I started my activism, I've been right-leaning, Trump supporter, anti-vaxxer, all that. And when I started activism back in like 2020, I really did call myself conservative, and I was Republican leaning. And so I considered myself a right-wing activist. And Heidi has been a left-wing activist, right?
Correct.
So when did you start activism, Heidi?
So I started right after the murder of George Floyd. That really changed me and prompted me into action. So in the beginning, I would stand out with a church every night for Black Lives Matter. And then I started to go into like Facebook online events, and I started traveling around different areas of Massachusetts doing other Black Lives Matter protests. And I eventually ended up joining a group called Refuse Fascism. And the whole big thing was Trump Pence out now. And I loved that.
Orange sticker.
Yes. It's like, he is the most evil thing. Like, we have to get him out of power. And that was like my whole goal. I even traveled to DC to protest against the Million MAGA March. Like,
on January 6th?
Not on January 6th. I was
supposed to. Is that not what that was?
Yeah, it was before that. But yeah, so then I continued to get more involved in doing other things related to Black Lives Matter. And then we started doing a weekly standout for a fellow activist who was a Black man who was falsely accused of assaulting an elderly white Trump supporter. And it didn't happen. It was on video, but still we rallied usually twice a week, actually. And that's when I first met you, Catherine. You showed up to his rally and supported him.
So are we not going to say names?
Well, whatever.
Well, anybody who has like watched me on a live before knows that I smoke cigarettes while I'm live, which I know is disgusting, but it really does suppress my coughing. Okay. I cough less if I'm inhaling the nicotine. So sorry if you think that that's rude. But are we not naming names?
No, I just didn't know if everybody would know if I started. Then I went into everything. So But yeah, so we rally in defense
I
of
feel
shit.
like, yeah, we might as well, because I feel like that topic's going to come up many
Yeah.
times during these lives or conversations, because that's how we met.
Yeah, and if
And
anybody who
because,
doesn't know who Shimmy is, just research Free Shimmy. He's an activist.
yeah, and because that was um kind of like my big in with like getting to talk to people on the left, because I'm like, here's an issue that I can actually stand for, because I saw the video myself and I saw that he didn't do it.
Right?
So, I mean, it sucks as far as like the right wing people, like the Trump people that I may have had some type of alliances with then, because they were lying or perpetuating a lie. Maybe they didn't know it was a lie, but they didn't. Thanks. My mom got me a water. They didn't. They weren't trying to find the truth. They were just trying to um, jail Shimmy, basically.
Right. And I remember thinking, like, that's so powerful. Like, somebody actually from that side is going to actually come out and say it's a lie. And you even called out Diana Ploss, and that was on, you know, was it on video or it was?
Yeah, I took a video. That was like, I
I
think
want her event.
one of my first videos I posted to YouTube. So, I think it's funny because it's like the activism world is like separate from the regular world. Like regular
Yeah.
average ass people don't know that this stuff is happening.
No.
And like to us, sometimes it consumes our lives.
It does.
Like it's a lot. There's a whole like cast of characters that we have to know. And like before when I was like doing all the right wing freedom stuff, I had, before I ever approached like leftist activists to talk about things, I had to do research on these people. I had to figure out who they were. So my first like inclination that like this is something that I want to take serious, like, mending the fence between the two sides and like figuring out a way to come together, was um in March of 2021, when one of my friends had a rally, like a freedom rally in Bridgewater. And this friend has been targeted by people on the left for like family issues that she had with her transgender brother. Would I say her sister that became her brother? So she was targeted back then for that. So when she was promoting this rally that she was having, some of the less leftist activists decided that they were going to crash the rally and protest it. And because there were some like questionable speakers there too, like super happy fun people. So at this rally, I brought my kids to it and my mother. And I thought it was just going to be like a nice day in the park. And then some of the activists on both sides were arguing with each other near my kids. And so I went up to a person that was videoing it, which happens to be the child of one of the leftists that still hates me. And I went up to the person videoing it and I was like, hey, can you ask them to move down? Like, they're too close to my kids. Can they just like take their argument to the other side of the park? And that child, like teenager or whatever, I don't know how old he or she is, was like, no, fuck you. Like, fucking tell them yourself. I'm not telling them shit, right? So I did. I went up to the activist that was screaming, like the leftist that was screaming at the guy on my side. And I was like, excuse me. And he screamed in my face with his bullhorn and told me to get away. And then I just stood there and like let him flip out on me. And I was like, okay, are you done now? And I said, you know, my kids are here, like right here on this picnic blanket. Could you guys just take your argument like 5 feet that way? And then he like literally, I wish I had this on camera because it's like he came out of character. He like stepped back and was like, "Oh my God, man, I'm so sorry. I did not come here to offend families with children. I absolutely will move down. You know, I didn't mean to offend you, like whatever." And then it was like a light bulb above my head, you know, like maybe if we just don't argue with people and just try to have like a civil conversation with them, maybe we can get somewhere. Right? So, like, that's where it started for me. It was in March 2021. And then after I left there, I started researching all of the activists and finding out everything that I could find out about them. And that's how I learned about the shimmy story. But that's what it is like the two sides is just an illusion. And, you know, it's just like with race and sexuality and anything that can divide us will divide us as long as we let it. So, you know, after that, I eventually, a couple months later, when I found out about the free shimmy story, I approached Shimmy at a rally and talked to him for a little bit, and he was very sketched out and like not wanting to talk to me. And then, you know, after seeing like the standouts that you were doing for Shimmy, I reached out to you, and you were also sketched out, right?
Yes, but I thought to myself, and I think differently now, but back then I was like, oh, she might be able to help. Like, we might be able to get her to help us with shimmy because you know that side. And that's what it was about for me in the beginning. I did not ever seriously think we would be any kind of friends or working together. It was just about helping shimmy. But it evolved into a friendship as time went on and we continued communicating, and we did find common ground when we talked, and we did find things that we could agree on, and then also things that happened in my life, personal things. That I have close family and I have close friends that are on the other side that are right wingers, and had a really hard time like having relationships with them, and I kicked a lot of people out of my life, and now I'm mending those relationships as well. But all of that combined like just changed my outlook, and I'm just like, there's no more sides for me. There's good people, there's evil people, and then there's just misguided people. And yeah, that's pretty much how
Yeah. So
it evolved.
I remember specifically, because in the beginning, like at first, I feel like you were like willing to talk to me, and then you like talked to some people about who I was or like the type of people that I hung out with, and you didn't know much about me, but you knew about the people that I knew. So you were like you're welcome to come to the standouts, but other than that, like, no, I have no interest in working with you. But anybody who wants to support Chibi is fine by me.
Yeah.
And then I remember specifically at the very end of like the day of Shimmy's trial when it was ending, that you said to me, I tried really hard not to like you. But you're kind of growing on me or something along those lines. And I had told you a couple times, I feel like at the standouts, like, I'm not gonna go away. So like you might as well just hear me out because I don't give up easily.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel. That's how I feel with everybody because it's like I don't think that I've ever had a conversation with somebody, like an actual civil conversation with somebody, where we both didn't walk away understanding more of what the other is going through or fighting for. So that's like how we kind of like started to be friends. And people don't like it.
No.
And it's like really sad to see that people don't like it because that should be what people want, is for people to come together on common ground and work together. Because as long as we're fighting each other, we're not paying attention to what the big guys are doing.
Exactly, and that's what they want us to do. They're pitting us against each other. Like, it's just crazy.
And it's so like ridiculous to think of how, like, in the beginning, so like I said, I got involved in activism in like 2020, but I started like paying attention to politics right after Trump got elected, because I voted for Trump. And when I started being vocal about it on my social media and about like my stances on things, people that I grew up with like stopped talking to me and unfriended me and called me racist. And I was like, but you know me. Like, you've known me my whole life. You know I'm not racist. Why would you say that? Just because I voted for this guy. And so even in the beginning of my activism, when I still was like under the guise of like the left is the enemy, it was like I still had like this inclination of like, we need to figure this out somehow, because we can't be each other's enemies and fight the government separately. It's not going to work, because my enemy is your enemy. So if I think that you're my enemy, then I'm like crippling myself by not wanting to work with you.
Yeah.
Apparently we have 100 subscribers. We had 94 earlier today.
Woo-hoo.
And then we had 95 when we started, and we're at 100 already.
Cool.
That's pretty cool. But yeah, so I figured that we're going to talk about a bunch of different topics on this show, and we're going to do it 3 times a week. We're going to try to stick to a half hour, because anytime I've ever done a live, I have a really hard time like ending it and have it not lasting like 3 hours, because there's so much to talk about when you're on like a specific topic. But I think a half hour is good. And we could probably bring on other people too if ever there's a need. But I think that talking about like how we got here first was a good start, and like maybe talking about what we want to come out of this, like why are we doing this, like why do you think that this is a good idea?
For me, I like just want other people to see that we're not each other's enemies. Like, we can talk, we can disagree, we can have different points of view, but we can also come together on common ground. There's going to be that common ground. And I think it's really important. Then also, there's got to be other people out there like me that, they could be on the left, they could be on the right, and then they could have a whole bunch of family members and friends that are not in the same political category as them, and they could be having a really tough time with it, and they're not alone. So I just think it's just very important that, yeah, just to show different points of view and to be respectful to each other and just stop seeing each other as enemies.
Yeah, that's what I think too. And I also think that like on days when we are out doing activism or like going to somebody's court date or something, I always leave with like this like need to get on a camera and tell everybody what just happened. And then I'm like, it's like every single time I'm like, I made a video about it, we talked about it, but it's not enough. Like, people need to keep hearing the same things over and over again, because they're just not paying attention. And especially people who aren't involved in activism. It's hard enough to keep the people who are involved engaged, but the people who don't even know that it's happening, like, how do we reach them? And it seems logical to me that you just have to keep being in their face over and over and over again.
And then the other thing is too, like, a lot of the right wingers don't understand what's going on the left. Like there's a ton of people that need to be supported that are having like false charges on them, but they don't realize it. And then the same vice versa, like you know, the right wing, there's people that are being falsely arrested for protesting and all like things we can agree on that are not good. We can support it together. Like just getting more people involved. Like I don't think if somebody is in trouble and somebody else wants to support them, who cares if they're right or left? Like the more people that are there to defend the person, the better.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know that I got some shit when I supported Shimmy, which I knew was going to happen. And that's why I made posts about it, like deliberately to not trigger people, but I guess trigger people because that's what needs to happen. Like all of a sudden, just like the people that I grew up with, when I posted about supporting Shimmy, the people that I had worked with for the past year were like, oh, you're a BLM supporter now? You're this, you're that. Like, no, I'm telling you, there's more to the story than what we're hearing. He didn't do what they said that he did, and that should be supported. Like, I thought that we wanted to seek the truth, not just like, get some guy criminally charged with something just because he is on the wrong side. Like, what is that about? And, people were in my inbox like, I'm done with you. I'm blocking you. You're a rhino. Like, okay, sure, I guess.
Yeah, had some people that are not happy with me as well. I remember, well, I thought it was awesome when we went to stand up against pedos 131, and I was like, who could ever oppose that? We are standing out here against these Nazis, against these pedos, and there was still people that found fault with it because you're on the other side.
Because you're standing with Catherine.
Yes.
And Catherine's a horrible person, and Catherine doesn't know what she stands for. It's so ridiculous.
But hopefully, people can change and people can grow.
And hopefully this can spark the conversation amongst the Massachusetts activists. If people want to come on here and talk with us or join your Facebook group for it. Or what is the name of the Facebook group?
Uniting on issues, not politics. And then
yeah. And a very controversial woman once said to me, everybody is political, whether it's by force or by choice. And that's true. Like, especially if you're a parent. Like, you can't just ignore. I mean, you can ignore it, but I don't think that makes you a great parent for not caring what kind of a world you're leaving behind for your children. You have to get involved and you have to do what you can to make a difference because freedom was there's another quote. I need to have like a list of all these quotes. Freedom is like never more than a generation away to being lost or something like that. Hello. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, for the longest time, I was totally fine with not even watching the news or paying attention to politics. I was just happy being a mom. Like, I could care less. And when I went to vote, all I knew was I voted Democrat and end of the day. And then I find out, all the stuff that's been going on that I hadn't paid attention to. And it's horrifying.
Yeah. And you also find out all kinds of, I have found out about so many things that we've been lied to about.
Yeah.
And I still don't watch the news. I actually probably watch the news less now than I did before activism because it's just propaganda. Like, You don't even know what you can believe and what you can't.
Yeah.
So Boston Ray, I'm gonna see how this Boston Ray says give us wrenches. I think that's a YouTube thing where you can like let somebody that's in the comments like moderate the comments and like pop up questions and stuff. But because I'm streaming off of StreamYard, so I don't have like the tools that I would if I were streaming off of YouTube, I think. So I don't know if I'm able to do that from here, but this is a learning process. So hopefully as we are making these shows, I'm going to learn how to do these things. And I don't know. I think that I hope that these conversations can get more people involved in, I mean, maybe in activism, but at least just in having the conversations, period. And in paying attention to government and what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And what does activism mean to you?
What does activism mean to me?
Yeah.
To me, it means just not accepting the things that we're able to change. Right? It's another quote. It's I have it on my website too from Shannon. It's because, the Serenity Prayer says to accept the things I cannot change, but now it's time to change the things that we can no longer accept.
Oh yeah, I like that one.
So, and I've been learning a lot of history too with all of this because history was my worst subject in school. I don't know about you, but it's the first thing I ever failed. And I did not like history at all. And now I'm regretting that because now I'm having to relearn things that I probably should have learned during my high school years.
Yeah, I never paid attention to history. Super boring.
Those things are probably going to be the topics of some of these shows because the way that things are replaying now that have already played out in the civil rights movement, you would be astonished at how similar the things are and how not much has changed since the civil rights movement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for me, activism means standing up for what you believe in, whether it's popular or not, and caring about other people and wanting to change the world for the better. So
Yeah.
So that's pretty much. No.
And we were talking about earlier how you don't just like wake up one morning and say, hey, I'm an activist now. Like it's something that you just grow into, I guess, because you can't just let things keep happening and ignore them.
Because our kids are going to have to deal with it. Our kids are going to inherit our mess, whatever mess
we leave behind for them.
Exactly.
Right?
Tell you what you stand for now.
Huh?
I'll tell you what you stand for now.
What?
Truth, freedom, and kindness.
Did you hear that? Yeah. Truth, freedom, and kindness.
There you go. Well,
so yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Things have reversed since MLK, since the civil rights movement. And I have like a huge love now for Malcolm X, a whole new respect. I feel like I know him because I read his autobiography and kind of like history what we know about history is what they want us to know about history, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like at this point, what I've learned through activism is that you have to question everything you know and everything that you're told. And I love when people bring up Martin Luther King Jr. because I get the opportunity to talk about Malcolm X. Because Martin Luther King Jr. took a walk and made a speech. Malcolm X did the work. And we don't even learn about Malcolm X in school. And that's disgusting. But that's another topic for another day.
Right.
I'm just looking through the comments. It's my friend Boston Ray is leaving a bunch of comments. Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, some advice for future shows. Advise of upcoming topics. So I do have a TikTok that maybe like 45 minutes before we came on, I went on TikTok and posted a video that we were coming on to do the live. I hate being on camera, guys. I don't like doing this. I am trying to get to like it because I feel like we need something like this to happen. So I'm hoping that as we do it more, I'll get better at it. But yeah. I hate my voice and my face.
Oh.
But yeah, so it's 9:30 and I think that we gave a pretty decent like introduction to who we are and why we're here. And we plan on every show being like one or two main topics that we're going to talk about. So, and we're going to do it 3 times a week. So hopefully we'll see you guys on Wednesday is the next day.
Yep.
Right?
Right.
Do you have anything else to add before we leave?
No, I don't think so.
I just got the light shut off on me. Okay. Well, thank you, Heidi. I will see you on Wednesday. And thank you, Ray, for lighting up my comments. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Leslie. Bye.
Bye.
Say bye.
Wait.
Oh, you want to say bye too?
We're going to say
Okay.
bye-bye.
Say bye.